Devil. Naruto stirred hearing the alarm going off as he reached back and slammed the snooze button. He tried to fall back into blissful sleep but heard a second alarm go off on his new phone that hammered into his ears. With a snarl he reached back and touched the screen.
He refused to wake up now. He was sleeping. Not just sleeping but resting in a state more comfortable and warm than he had ever experienced before. This was bliss. Nirvana. A paradise. Why was it different today? Why was sleeping so wonderful and inviting right now more than ever? He didn't have an answer, and he didn't care to find one. He wrapped his arms around his pillow and pulled it in closer to him as his head rested in the soft sensation akin to air. The warmth permeating his skin. The sensation of his hair being softly caressed and rubbed. The rhythm of a heart that helped lull him to sleep. Heart. His eyes slowly peeled open and half of his vision was obscured by a fleshy substance over his eye. He realized he wasn't hugging his pillow and looked over what he held. His mind was attempting to process the realization that the things he was burying his head into were a pair of massive breasts. He then finally took notice that the thing rubbing his head was a hand, and looked up to see the woman sleeping in his bed with him. Rias smiled warmly down at the man in her embrace, hugging her tightly with his arms encircled around the small of her back. She continued to greet him as his eyes widened. "You slept soundly, didn't you?"
Naruto nearly jumped out of his futon before the back of his head met wall. There was a clatter to the side as the blonde greedily gasped for air and tried to make sense of the situation. He felt his face burning brightly while the girl in his bed sat up and stretched her arms with a yawn. With a moment to think, Naruto realized that Rias wasn't naked, but was dressed in very thin pajamas. Almost see-through. They were so revealing that Naruto could still see her breasts despite the cloth over them. She lowered her arms and rubbed her eyes before greeting him. "Good morning." "Good morning. Seriously." The whiskered devil finally composed himself enough to frown at the lackadaisical redhead, even if his face was still flushed. He crawled back over to his futon to face his surprised guest. "What are you doing in my bed?"
"Sorry, I woke up late at night and realized I didn't feel comfy in my bed. I came over to see if you were awake but you were fast asleep." Rias softly smiled. "You looked like you were so comfy and it seemed so inviting. So you just snuggled up and fell asleep with me?" Rias nodded as he stared at her oddly. "You slept with me?"
"Don't look so surprised. This isn't the first time we've done it. I slept beside you when I was healing your wounds the night after that fallen angel hurt you, remember?" The memory that started this strange series of events filled his mind for a moment. "In fact, you've seen me more naked than this on a few occasions as well, right?"
"I didn't remember those very well," the blonde answered blankly, eyes slowly panning to the side so that he could not incriminate himself. "Those were very hectic times." "I suppose you're right." Rias agreed with a tone of amusement. "Such a shame. Thinking about you seeing me naked actually made my heart flutter for some reason." "Please don't say that so nonchalantly." He heard her stifle her laughter as he frowned. "You're toying with me, aren't you?" "Whatever gave you that idea?" Rias joked while heading for the closet. "I'm going to go get washed. You should think about doing so as well before we head to school." "Good luck. Knowing this place you'll only get ice-cold water to wash yourself with."
"Don't worry." Rias smiled confidently. "I had a conversation with the manager the other night. With a little added incentive, Taichi-san should be getting some warm water for the showers again by now." She headed for the gap connecting their rooms and spoke back one last time. "See you down there." Naruto was finally left alone in his room as the devil grumbled. It had been several days now since Rias took residence in the room next to his. Despite the change in household, the crimson-haired woman didn't seem to mind living in the shabby complex. In fact, she seemed to quite enjoy her new lifestyle. But she also seemed to take full advantage of the fact he was her new neighbor. She would come over and visit whenever she wanted. He was forced to do his homework all the time because she came to check up on him. She did cook some meals for them to eat as well, and she was a damn fine cook, so they had eaten together every night so far. And she also took it upon herself to act as a tutor for him and help catch up on the stuff he missed while he was away. Suffice to say, Naruto had grown accustomed to having a nosy neighbor. With a beleaguered sigh, Naruto reached over and grabbed his new phone. It felt odd finally having something like this to call his own, but after some tips and crash courses with the other members of the orc he had gotten a handle of working it.
With a phone filled with the numbers of the other members and a background of Rias pecking him on the cheek, it was a little barren, but it was his phone.
Naruto decided that he did need to get washed and pushed himself up on his feet. Grabbing a towel, he walked out into the early morning and let the sunlight wash over him. Covering his eyes, he made downstairs and headed for the showers. Walking in, he started taking off his clothes until he was left in only his boxers. He put his articles away in a box before looking aside and seeing Rias' negligee and panty in another box as well.
That girl was bold. Naruto. The blonde looked over and saw the local drunk foreigner waving to him from the door. Naruto greeted in return. Hey Marco. Taking an early morning wash too? Nah. The misplaced European shook his head. Knowing what I get up to in a normal day, better to wash all the filth and sin off me at the end of the day instead of the beginning. Doubt we have enough water for all that filth. So what's been up with you? The older man asked. You disappeared for several days. Appear one night after all the damages, and then that sexy little redhead moves in next door. What's that like?
Well, Naruto. The two men looked over to see the doors to the showers open with Rias sticking her head out. She still had some shampoo on her crown and hid her breasts behind the frame of the door, but still left enough for their imaginations to run wild. She smiled and pointed to the side. I forgot my towel. Can you bring it in when you come? Thank you. She ducked back in and left the two men standing there in silence. You know what, I might actually get washed now. I thought you did it later. It's a good way to wake up and start the day. Definitely seems like you're doing it for other reasons. I'm a gentleman. Whatever reason you think I have is wrong. Now time to go in there and offer my services to wash her back. Marco's dash for the showers was halted when Naruto's arm tightly wrapped around his neck. In a matter of seconds they were lowered to the ground. Marco slapping the blonde's arm for freedom as Naruto shushed him. If he didn't fight, it would all be over quicker. Devil, so I finally received confirmation from my Oni-sama, after a very lengthy and rather irritating conversation that never seemed to end. Sona picked up a portion of her bento rice with her chopstick. It seems Kokubile has been effectively punished for his actions here in town. Along with the dead nerve endings, missing arm, severe burns, clipped wings, and most likely dangerously scarred mentality from being beaten by a group he underestimated, he has been banished to the Cocytus for an indefinite amount of time. So, he was punished. Yes, Uzumaki-kun, severely. Good. Naruto snarled while digging into his box lunch and chomping down on the chicken harshly. His face twisted with a frown. If I never see that fucker's burnt crispy head again in my entire life, it'll still be too soon. You certainly sound bitter. Akano playfully noted with a smile directed to the one boy at their pseudo table, still a little sore. Not sore, thanks to Asia. The blonde grumbled, but considering that guy gouged out my stomach and then proceeded to twist his heel in the hole. Yeah, I feel a little bitter. You talk about getting your stomach gouged out, but you continue to gorge yourself on the bento. It's a good bento. Ah, thank you, Rias gushed. Well, it's nice to have you back with us, Uzumaki-kun, Sona offered. We heard about your little adventure with the Governor General of the Grigori. Being abducted by the leader of the fallen angels for so many days. That must have been hard. Tsubaki noted with a flat voice before looking at the whiskered blonde. What was it like being so close to one of the oldest and most formidable enemies of the devil faction? He was a bit nerdy. Talked a lot. Mostly about things I didn't know. And referred to his sex life too much. Well, that's interesting. Naruto felt a drop of sweat run down his neck as the four girls went back to eating their meals in peace. These girls were unflappable. Being high-borns of the Devil Society must have prepared them to keep calm and carry on any conversation like it was nothing. They probably just let the dirty looks being sent towards their table of desks just wash off their backs like nothing. Or maybe it was just because all the intent was being aimed at him, one or the other. So Rias, Sona looked over at her oldest friend as the redhead titled her head. I was wondering if I could ask a favor of you and the Occult Research Club. What is it, Sona? One of the school's pools hasn't been properly cleaned since the end of last semester. And it got even more muddied because of the debris and smoke kicked up during your fight. Now it's supposed to be up to the student council and I to clean it up, but I have some meetings I have to attend after school today. Now if I were to open it up to all of you so you can swim.
Of course, Sona. Rias gracefully nodded and gave her friend a beatific smile. We owe you for helping us so much with Kokabeel. This is the least we can do.
You know. Naruto droned, when I woke up after getting killed by that psychotic bitch fallen angel and found out I was now part of the devil world. I didn't think that would lead to me cleaning up a pool.
Akeno smiled. It's an ever-changing, fantastic world we live in. Devil, wow, this pool looks like a pigsty, a mud hole. Looks like people dropped their pants and just went right there off the side. You know, I think I saw something similar to this in one of my exorcism jobs years ago. Xenovia tilted her head. That does not bode well.
All the present orc members came to an agreement that the pool did not look accommodating for anyone. The water was brown and almost pitch black. Sludge had accumulated over the surface of the water and piles of leaves had built up so far from the floor that they poked out the top.
They couldn't help but feel like the stucco had tossed them a very nasty job to work with. Okay. Rias rolled up her sleeves and stepped up to the poolside. I suppose we should get started. Bucko, Issei raised an eyebrow. How exactly are we gonna clean out all the gunk and…
Rias waved her hand as a wave of destruction spread out from it. It formed over the pool before slowly lowering down, reducing the water to vapor and eradicating the sludge and leaves. Once it reached the floor, the destructive power vanished completely. There was still a sheen of grime over the floor, but there was no longer any water blocking it.
Rias relaxed her shoulder before turning to Issei with an expectant look. Issei's mouth closed. Never mind. Okay everyone, we're getting in there and cleaning the rest. Rias was already making her way to the changing rooms with the other girls on her tail. I suggest you get changed if you don't want your uniforms to get covered in an inch of year-old slime. Excellent point, Bucko. Good idea. Don't need to tell me twice. The boys made their way in and found a few spare gym uniforms laid out for them. They grabbed what they needed and started changing. Hee hee hee. Issei was giggling in joy at the prospect that just outside in a few seconds, he would be surrounded by the orc girls and their gym-clad bodies. The idea that they would be moving and shaking while their clothes got wet. I love my new life. You certainly seem to be enjoying yourself. You would not think that you survived a near-death experience with a monster like Kokabeel with how chipper you are. That's old news. I'm alive another day and I get to see the glorious bodies of Bucko, Asia, Akeno-san, Kaneko-chan, and Xenovia in the water. Issei bragged to his arm. How can I not be chipper? To each his own, I suppose. What are you doing? Issei looked back and saw Naruto staring at him oddly. Are you talking to your arm? Why yeah. Issei's face took a hue of red from embarrassment as he realized he hadn't talked to Diedrich in front of anyone else before. I was talking to the dragon. In my boosted gear. You talked to a dragon in your arm? Naruto snickered at the pervert's expense.
Issei scowled. Yep. Sounds about as nuts as when you go out at night with your ninja buddies hunting zombies. Naruto and Issei were quick to glare at each other, sparks flying between their eyes as they snarled like wild animals. It was only after a tense moment that they both separated and went back to changing. The brunette hid a small smirk before jabbing. So, senpai, you get to live next to Bucho now. You haven't been naughty and sneaked a pay, Issei cradled his head and looked back as Naruto lowered his fist. The blonde showed his teeth and the pervert flinched back. Don't you start that again. Either of you. He looked between Issei and Yuto. Since you two idiots got this stupid idea in my head that Rias might like me, I haven't been able to get it out of my head.
Plus the fact she kissed him when he brought up the subject left him very befuddled about how to address it. We didn't just say Bucko liked you, Naruto-senpai. Issei threw his shirt aside and smiled knowingly. We said you liked each other. You know, both ways. He's right, Naruto-san. That is what we said. Yuto smiled as well, and the fact that it's plaguing you so might show some merit. Stop, both of you. The two younger men chuckled after getting under their senior's skin as Naruto seethed. I hate you both so much. Seriously, you make it so easy. They seemed to take Naruto's spite in stride and continued to laugh. Yuto stopped first and looked between the other boys of the orc in silence. He lowered his gaze before looking back up at them. Is-kun. Naruto-san. May I have a moment to speak to you both?
When they gave him their attention, he took a moment to collect his thoughts. I just wanted to tell you both, how grateful I am for your help. Issei-kun, you kept trying to pull me back from the edge and protecting Bucho and the others while I left. Naruto-san, you were blunt and honest with me about how badly this path would take further control of me. You both stopped me from making my mistakes any worse, so I wanted to give my thanks.
It's fine, man. Issei answered with some discomfort. Can we not have this discussion while none of us are wearing shirts? And I wanted to tell you both that if you were ever in need of my help, I shall be there in an instant. Okay, I'm gonna leave before this gets any weirder. Issei grabbed his shirt and was already out the door before he finished, wanting to avoid any more of this uncomfortable situation. Naruto-san, may I ask you something? Sure. Naruto pulled his shirt down before turning to his fellow blonde. What is it?
I wanted to ask you about something personal. Yuto looked guilty for a moment before steeling himself to speak. It was about that person you told me about during the fight. The person you knew that lost themselves to revenge. The handsome junior noticed a subtle furrow of the other boy's eyes when the topic was brought up. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I brought it up so I should be able to talk about it. Naruto sighed deeply before staring ahead. The guy the first was talking about had something terrible happen to him. He lost everyone he cared about. To his brother, someone he trusted and loved more than anything in the world. And that awful sense of needing to avenge them completely controlled him. He devoted himself to reaching that goal by any means necessary. Even if that meant turning his back on his village.
All of his friends, and me. He wanted to focus on it so badly that he tried to sever every connection and relationship he had, even his friendship with me, and he did that by going for my head. He did a lot of bad things, made a lot of people sad and angry, but he finally got what he wanted. But then his vengeance made him keep going, aiming for another target to kill. And another. He got lost in his need for revenge. I thought I could bring him back, but I think I was too late.
And what happened to him? Remember that big blast I told you about?
The one that led me here. Yuto nodded. Well, he was there with me. The guy we were fighting was about to tear through me and hold me down, so I'd go with him. And my friend. Sasuke was his name. He took my place. Part of me thinks he just wanted to land the last hit and finish Madara himself. Another part of me thinks he tried to save me because we were friends. Whatever reason it was, he's gone now. And so is his vengeance. His need to avenge the people he lost never gave up. Yuto muttered to himself as Naruto nodded. The younger blonde nodded. If I'm honest, when I think about Excalibur, I'm still angry. I still want to destroy those swords. But that burning need to focus solely on that mission isn't there anymore. I want to honor my friend's loss. His eyes focused on Naruto's firmly, but I don't want to end up like your friend.
You won't. Naruto gave a small smirk and raised his fist as Yuto was quick to return it. We won't let you. Devil, I'm in heaven. No, wait. I'm a devil. Is hell the devil's version of heaven? Don't care, I'm in devil heaven. Issei continued to babble to himself while the glorious image of the girls walking along the poolside in the sunlight was saved to his memory. Ria's perfect figure was on display with her new white swimsuit, leaving nothing to the imagination and with no one complaining.
Akino flipped her hair back, the motion causing her massive breasts to bounce in her mixed red and blue bikini. Asia's little frame was covered by her school swimsuit as she happily reveled in the attention she was getting from Issei. And finally Kaneko fixed a swim cap over her head before pulling on the edges of her swimsuit so it didn't ride up. Zenobia wasn't out yet. But he had 4/5. And 4/5 was pretty great. Issei was in heaven. However, his eyes quickly ducked to the side when he noticed Kaneko's furious glare spot him staring. He coughed, dispelling his nervousness and walking up to the two girls with a smile. Hey, you two look great.
Really? You think so, Issei-san? Asia beamed with joy at the compliment before looking herself over. I've never actually been to a pool before, so I don't have a frame of reference for buying swimsuits. But you really think it looks good?
Absolutely. But then again, you look great in just about everything you wear, Asia. The blonde girl blushed with joy at his compliment before Issei continued. So you've never been to a pool before, huh? Well, there are some important things you need to know about them. Some pools have heated water, but most don't and are very cold. When they're cold, you have two ways to get in them. You either go in slow and adjust to the water. Or this. Naruto kicked Issei's butt and knocked the pervert headfirst into the icy fresh water. Issei quickly popped back up from the water and spit out what got in his mouth before he glared up at the smirking blonde. By the way, that was me getting you back for kicking me into that nasty mermaid a while back.
You're still upset about that? I got hurt that night too. Not nearly enough. Naruto wanted to keep enjoying his victory.
You're open. He felt someone run into his back and tackle him into the water, quickly feeling the same cold chill run up his back as Issei did. He breached the surface and gasped for air before he saw the guilty redhead floating in place and laughing. She swam over to the poolside and lifted herself out before calming her laughing fit and smiling, I'm sorry. It looked like you were having so much fun I just couldn't help myself.
Well, aren't you cheeky? Naruto smiled while Yuto and Akeno jumped in as well. He paddled over to her side. That your first time tackling someone into a pool? Perhaps. It was quite enjoyable. Rias ran her hair back over her shoulder before she leaned down towards him. So, what do you think of my new swimsuit? Do you like it? Very wet. Very big. It's nice. Naruto blankly stated as his eyes looked for anything else to focus on.
Well, thank you. I see from the look on Issei's face that he agrees with you. The pervert nodded with a gaping mouth before the redhead beauty smiled. Well boys, I'm glad to see you two in such high spirits. Because I need a favor from you both. Issei, can you help Asia with her swimming lesson? The poor thing doesn't know how to swim and could really use your help.
Yes. Please, Issei-san. He couldn't say no to that adorable pleading face and agreed as they went over to another side of the pool to start practicing. Naruto looked up at his king, and me?
Same thing. You want us both to help Asia. Rias shook her head before looking back at the short freshman trying to fold into herself. Kaniko's pale cheeks were a heavy shade of red and she had her hands behind her back. Her eyes burrowed into the concrete at her feet before finally looking up at Naruto's surprised blue ones. You don't know how to swim. I don't like the water. Kaniko tried to sound indifferent but the two older students could barely hear the nervousness in her soft voice. She looked away again. Swimming is my least favorite activity. I prefer to do anything else besides playing in the water.
See? Rias giggled. She's in dire need of help?
Kaniko, do you want my help? Kaniko blushed a little harder and lowered her head before nodding. Before he could respond she was already making her way around the pool and leaving him behind. He made his way over to the steps as she slowly started to emerge herself, a shiver making its way up her small body from the cold water. Once her feet hit the floor, she turned around to face him while her head was still hung. A small smile took Naruto's face before he held out his hands for her. She was quick to grab hold of them, squeezing them tightly like they were her lifeline. She looked down, ashamed in her childishness before carefully looking up at him. Is it weird that I still can't swim? Nope. Some people just have things they've never gotten around to doing. That's not weird. Naruto slowly started to step back and pull her along as Kaniko straightened out her body. She started kicking her legs at a careful pace to keep up with his pull before he chuckled, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised.
Why? Don't know. You always seem so in control of everything around you, so to find out you can't and don't like to swim is a bit surprising. I want to learn. Kaniko said between breaths as she tried to talk and concentrate of swimming at the same time. It's a useful skill to have and one I should get around to learning. I may still have a long way to go, but why you can do it, Kaniko-chan. Asia cheered for her as she and Issei passed by, the nun taking longer breaths and her kicks a little harsher as she tried to keep up with Issei. But we're here to help you. Naruto finished as Kaniko ducked her head again. He wanted to ask if something was wrong but before he could he felt his back hit the wall. Kaniko kept swimming and hit his chest, gasping for a moment before finding her footing again and standing up to face him. When she looked up and saw his face she quickly averted her gaze and kept it solely on his chest. Kaniko? Why yes? Are you mad at me? Kaniko looked up at him in surprise. I noticed you look away from me sometimes now and you don't talk to me. Not to say you were the most talkative person to begin with but still. No. Kaniko answered in a panic while looking up at the blonde. I'm sorry for making you feel like that but I'm. She blushed and wanted to look away before making herself look up at him. I'm embarrassed for needing help with learning how to swim. I know it's childish and stupid, but still feel silly for needing it. And I was never mad at you, senpai.
I was. Kaneko stopped for a moment before reaching out and pressing a palm into his chest. It stayed there and Naruto noticed a slight tremble in her arm while holding onto him. She looked up at him with a sad expression. I was worried about you. I thought you were gone for good and I was so worried that I wouldn't get to see you again and say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for acting so weird. For thinking you did something wrong. And I'm glad.
Kaneko felt a hand rest on her cap and looked up to see him smiling at her. Even with the cap on her head she felt him gently jostle it before he smiled. I'm glad to be back too. And I'm glad you aren't mad at me. Kaneko blushed a little harder while he patted her head before she mumbled, senpai, I need to tell you, I'm sorry.
Era, well don't you two look like you're having fun. They both looked over and saw Akano smiling at them fondly. It then took on her patented teasing form while she looked at the blonde. You aren't teasing Kaneko-chan or anything, are you?
Course not. If I did I'm sure she'd punch me in the gut or something. She just might. The busty young woman walked over before leaning down to better face Kaneko. Kaneko-chan. Would you be willing to let me help with your swimming lesson? Oh of course. Wonderful. She stepped over and took the younger girl's hands before sending a cheeky smile back at Whiskered Boy. Jealous I'm taking the next dance?
You're enjoying this way too much. Akano pulled Kaneko along as the freshman started kicking. Once they were away from Naruto the buxom queen giggled, that was very brave of you. But if you need some time to gather more courage, you can take the time.
Kaneko hid her red face in the water as her ears started to burn. Devil, Asia moaned tiredly as she sat out on the poolside after practicing her swimming. Her arms laid out beside her. That was so difficult. I don't think I can raise my arms anymore.
You did great, Asia-senpai. For your first lesson you did an excellent job. Kaneko complimented the nun while she laid across the towel beside her. The little rook had had her yearly dose of splashing in water and was now enjoying the fact that she was on dry land. Because land was so much better than water in every way, shape, and form. She opened one eye and spotted Rias and the others passing a ball between each other and laughing heartedly. Okay, she did want to play in the water with them as well. She sat up and watched them play before she spotted Naruto standing off to the side. She walked over to see what he was doing as he just stared down at the pool. Kaneko came up to his side. What are you doing? You look like you're just staring at the water. I am technically doing that. But I was just thinking. Naruto stood back up and clapped his hands before smirking at the short girl. Wanna see a trick? She shrugged, which for Kaneko may as well have been a furious nod and cheer in agreement. He closed his eyes, clasping his hands together with his index fingers up.
Just a little. Just to see if it's gotten any better. Without pause Naruto took a step forward on the water. When he heard the laughing stop and he didn't immediately fall, he knew something had happened. Opening one eye he looked down and saw he was standing on the surface of the water. He chuckled, so far so good. Holy shit. Issei gaped, I guess he was totally making it up.
Asia covered her mouth. It's a miracle. Naruto tentatively stepped forward as he focused what little chakra he could access on keeping himself standing. He was slowly making his way across the pool and had his eyes on reaching the other side. He smiled, stepping a little faster as he realized his evil piece really was fixing.
A sharp pain shot through his body, his chakra failing before he slammed into the water and sunk. He clamored to reach the surface and gasped for air when he reached it. Naruto, what happened? Nothing. I'm fine. Rias helped keep him straight and walk over to the side before he rubbed his temples. I just have a headache is all.
Are you going to be alright? Yeah, just need to take a breather. He pulled himself out of the pool and groaned, I'll be back in a sec. He passed a worried Asia and patted her head before heading over to the hall to catch his breath. He grabbed a drink from the vending machine and let the cold beverage slide down his throat. So it looked like even though his body was getting its strength back, the chakra wasn't doing the same. Azazel said something about his energies being too messed up inside his body and that was why he couldn't use it properly. And Asia's healing wasn't going to be enough to fix it, he had to find someone that could fix the energy inside of him. Now how the hell was someone gonna do that? Naruto Uzumaki? The blonde came out of his thoughts and looked up to see the new knight of their peerage. The blue-haired warrior with the green streak was wearing a green bikini. She stepped up to him. What are you doing here?
Taking a break. Why aren't you in the pool? This is my first swimsuit. I wanted to make sure I got it prepared properly. The stoic girl looked herself over before facing him. What do you think? Looks nice. What kind of life did these girls have where they've never tried swimsuits and don't know how to swim? He was silent between them for a moment before he walked over to the vending machine again. Want a drink? Yes, I suppose I could use one. Once it was ordered, he held the drink out for her to take, the awkward church warrior looking it over for a moment before taking a swig of it. Once she had the taste, she hummed and leaned on the wall beside him.
He found it quite odd to watch the girl that was apparently their enemy not too long ago now being their newest member. He hadn't had much interaction with the new knight yet to make a strong impression, but he thought her to be a very strange girl. He sipped on his drink. So how are you liking the school?
It's interesting. Zenobia responded. I'm quite enjoying this new lifestyle. The work is harder than I thought it would be, but I'm starting to get used to it. Probably doing better than I do. Thank you for the vote of confidence, Naruto Uzumaki. You can just call me Naruto if you want, saves time. Oh, then thank you. You can refer to me as Zenobia if you wish. I will. The two quietly sipped on their drinks and heard the sound of the other members still playing in the pool.
Can I ask you a question? Zenobia finally spoke again and turned to face him completely. Why did you seem so adamant to defend me against the church the other day? We hardly had enough contact for you to be treating me like a friend, and yet you seemed so quick to the idea of charging a church and demanding they take me back. It confuses me.
Oh right. Sorry if that seemed weird. Naruto swirled his drink around before frowning. I just really don't like the idea of people being judged like that for something beyond their power. I know you said you were fine with it, but it's still pretty shitty, so I'm sorry. It's fine. And I appreciate your concern, so thank you. The former church warrior looked out towards the pool and then towards the school they came from. This is quite a new task for me. Being able to choose what I want to do myself and experience all these new things. Ice cream. Ramen. Swimming at a pool. Seriously? Naruto was shocked by how little she had experienced. Did you just never try them yourself? I never had a need to. I was always so focused on doing my job for the church that everything else just came second to me. But I'm a devil now, and Rias Bucko told me that one of the key parts of being a devil is indulging in what you want and fulfilling your desires. Well, looks like Rias fancied herself a life guru.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the church. That was my life and my purpose for so long, and now it feels strange knowing I have to give that up now. But I suppose if the alternative is getting to live my life and experience the world in a new way. A small smile made its way across the strange girl's face, then it might not be so bad. She wanted to see what her life was like without the duty of the church bearing over her. He could respect that. The blue-haired knight turned to him. Naruto, I'm not familiar with how to enjoy most things and experience life by myself. So I know it might be strange, but could I ask for your help? The older blonde gave her a small smile before going to take drink. Sure, you can count on me for anything. Great. Zenobia downed her drink and dropped the can. Let's get started. The former church warrior quickly stepped up to him and snaked her hand down his swimsuit to grab his penis. Naruto spit out his drink and looked at the girl fiddling with his member. What the fuck are you doing? Trying to engage in intercourse. Zenobia looked up at him. I'm told that this is one of the activities people my age most often participate in. Apparently, when thinking of pleasure and desires, this is the act that most embodies them both. Right now I am attempting to engage you in foreplay. A girl in my class named Aika Kuryu said it was the best way to surprise your partner and get each other heated up before coitus. Is it working? She explained this to him with a very serious expression and her hand still around his dick. Let go. He swatted her hand out of his pants and covered his crotch before putting some distance from her. I don't know who's been telling you what, but you do not just go around and grab someone's dick. It's weird and strange and, wow, I can't make it go back down. I'm interested in having sex. And I'm not against the idea of one day having a child myself. Zenobia crossed her arms and nodded sagely. I consider myself very lucky on that account. You, Issei Hyodo, and Yuto Kiba all proved that you are quite capable in the fight against Kokubile. Genes as strong as yours would almost certainly assure that a child would be strong.
I don't think that's how it works, won't know until we try. Stop. Naruto held her back before rubbing the bridge of his nose in irritation. Look, I know this is all new to you and everything, but you cannot go around doing stuff like this. It's messy, so you should. What if someone does want to do stuff like this? Like Issei Hyodo, for example. Sure. Issei. Go try it in Issei or something. Xenovia cupped her chin in thought before nodding. Okay, that's not a bad idea. I suppose I should go over and see if he wants to. Xenovia turned before looking back and nodding to him. Thanks for the advice, Naruto. Yeah, sure, please leave. The knight was off to try her luck with the other boys as he was left to deal with problem. He yelled back, and wash your hand. For a girl so used to handling swords, her hands were really soft. Era, that's bold of you, Xenovia-chan. I feel like I could probably do the same. P perverted. Issei Hyodo, care to come with me? Holy shit. Xenovia-san. No fair, not his problem.
Devil. Now focus. Keep imaging that light traveling like blood through your body. Now let the light travel through your arms and into your fingertips. Imagine it extending from your body. The dark room was slowly illuminated by the ball of energy being projected between his hands. Rias looked at his concentrating face and smiled with a nod. Good, looks like you've already got the concentration part down. Remember what I told you next.
Visualization. Naruto murmured while focusing on collecting his demonic power. Imagine something and let my power take form. Exactly. It could be anything as long as you have a strong image in your mind. Now imagine something in your head, clear as day and certain to you. Then allow it to take your power and make form. The ball of energy quickly blew outwards in a violent burst of wind. His room was subject to the power of a tornado for an instant before his power quickly died down completely. The two teens were lifting, staring in shock, their clothes and hair whipped by the gust. Hee, oh okay. Then I suppose it's wind. Rias laughed while fixing her hair, special preference I assume. Wind was my specialty back home. Naruto grinned. If this stuff really just needs my imagination, then I'm sure I can make it work. Thanks for teaching me. Think nothing of it. I'm glad we can finally get around to teaching you to utilize your demonic power. But why the sudden interest in learning? She tilted her head and saw his face scrunch up in annoyance. Sore point? Wouldn't call it sore. But I'm sure I stressed tested my bladder more than I've ever had to. Well, that sounds like an interesting story, but you'll have to tell me about it later. Rias pointed outside. Do you want to practice flying a little more? That seems like your favorite training session.
Absolutely. Naruto was smiling brightly and making his way to the door already. He had to say that training to use his wings and fly was his favorite training regiment so far. He stepped out and looked around before spreading his wings from his back. You coming? On my, oh. Rias saw her magic seal come over her hand. Sorry Naruto, go ahead. I think I have a call coming in. The blonde nodded and leapt off the balcony before flying through the air with a cheer. She smiled and sat back down before holding out her hand. This is Rias.
Hello, Rias. The handsome redhead greeted her with a cheerful grin. It's your wonderful Oni-chan calling in to check up on you. Aren't you happy to see? Rias closed her hand and deactivated the image coming out of the magic circle. She sat there in silence with a neutral expression before the call came back in. She answered it and was pleased to see the gray-haired maid standing beside her idiotic brother. Hello, Graphia. Sorry to disturb you, Oju-sama. Graphia greeted with a bow as Sirzex scratched his head beside her. Sirzex-sama has something to report to you. Is he going to stop acting like a moron? We can only hope. The lovely maid stepped aside to let her, king, speak. He coughed into his fist and presented himself much more cordially. Hello, Rias. Glad to see you are enjoying your new accommodations. Hello to you too, Oni-sama. I have to thank you for helping me set this up. Rias greeted back. You should have seen the look on Naruto's face when he came to greet me. It was quite funny. I bet. Maybe Naruto-kun will show a similar expression when we come to visit. What? Ah, that face. I'm guessing that's what he looked like when he saw you. Oni-sama. What are you talking about? Do you remember Azazel? Rias scrunched her nose. That sick, conniving, evil, lying bastard that stole my pawn, while his underling wreaked havoc on our territory and nearly killed everyone in our town.
Yep, that's the one. Sears nodded. He's called a meeting between the heads of the factions. Apparently he wants to address what happened with the Excalibur blades. Seeing as all three factions were involved with it in some way, he thought it would be the best opportunity for us all to come together and talk about it.
So does he want to address his inability to control his subordinates as well as he thought? Perhaps. We won't know until the meeting. It'll be held just a few days before your summer vacation. Rias finally realized why he was calling, and I suppose you want us to attend the meeting as well? That's right. I'd be glad to, Oni-sama. I have some words to share with the head of the fallen angels. Where is it being held? Well, that's the funny thing. It's being held at Kuo. We're all coming to you. What? Leviathan, Azazel, Michael, and I are all coming to negotiate at Kuo. It'll be very soon, so make sure you all get ready. I have to go. I'll come see you for the family visit. Love you. Wait, he cut her off and Rias was left sitting alone in the dark. The pure-blooded girl's mouth hung agape in horror before her fists started to clench. Hey Rias, what are you doing? You gonna fly or, I'll come back later. Naruto quickly left before Rias' ire could be aimed at him. Looks like she just got some bad news. Devil. You seem tired. Yeah, Issei groused through his yawn while making his way towards school. The pervert rubbed his eyes again to clear out the sand. Didn't think we'd stay up so late studying for the tests.
Exams were coming up and Asia wanted to make sure her Japanese was better. The poor nun was so frantic and worried about reading the characters correctly that they spent most of the night revising. He also had to help her make a study sheet for translating Italian phrases into Japanese to help Zenobia. Apparently the two former church-goers had become fast friends before he knew it. He caught them at the end of their prayers, sometimes when they were on the ground clutching their heads. Even as devils, it was just instinctive of them to pray. Poor fools. Now he was left walking to school by himself while Asia went to visit Zenobia in her new home. He yawned once before looking down at his arm. I guess you don't get to share in my fatigue or anything, do you? Like one of those relationships in manga? I'm the disembodied soul of a dragon latched onto a powerful weapon and now forced to spend a devil's lifetime in the arm of a teenager. This might be a punishment, but it'd be too cruel if I had to suffer your pain and fatigue as well. Fair enough. Issei shrugged at the crabby response before tilting his head. Bucko said devils have pretty long lifespans, right? Several millennia in fact. Oh. His eyes widened as the huge number started coming back to him. Wow, that was a long time. How the hell was he going to spend several millennia of life doing anything anyway? Shit, that was overwhelming. He looked down at his arm before coughing awkwardly. I guess we'll have a lot of time to get to know each other. So, do you have any hobbies? Fighting. Ah. Anything else you like, besides fighting? Red. Not sure what I was expecting. Issei sighed. Guess we're going to have to spend some of those millennia trying to get you a new hobby or something. Activities to slate my boredom are hardly the most pressing matter. You should be on your guard. You may find yourself in a fight at any moment. Geez, you're paranoid. Is this that drawing people with strength towards me thing you warned me about? Don't you think you're overreacting? Am I? I was almost certain that after I warned you, two emissaries from the church appeared wielding holy swords. Your companion gained the ability to wield a weapon unlike any in this world. That blonde fellow reappeared with a sacred gear, and you all were forced to fight with a powerful foe from an enemy faction. Okay. Point to you, I guess. I'm not even accounting the arrival of the White One, which should be reason enough to prepare for a battle. White One, you keep talking about this guy. Are you talking about that big white armor that crashed down through the dome at the end of our fight with Kokobile? Issei recalled the sudden appearance of that stranger in shimmering white armor at the end of their long fight. He thought that armor looked far too much like his own for it to a coincidence. Who is he exactly? For as long as I have lived and as long as I can remember, I have been at odds with a white dragon. We fought an endless battle, leveling lands and destroying lives all across the world. Our battles were glorious and numerous, but never did we find a proper end to them. Wow, you weren't kidding about the fighting hobby, were you? We fought so much that it was the only thing that mattered to us. Others tried to intervene and stop our quarreling, but they quickly found themselves pushed aside or worse. Finally, it was decided that our fighting was becoming too much of a nuisance for a certain conflict to carry on. You should guess what it is, since you recently halted its second wind.
The war? Seriously? Issei gawked, drawing a few nervous looks from other people as he reeled back from that bomb. The dragon in his arm had forced the war to come to a temporary halt so they could deal with him. He paled. What did I get stuck with?
Once our bodies were destroyed, our souls were confined to two sacred gears. But even without physical forms, our battle did not stop. It was merely changed to use the people inhabiting our gears now. For generations we have waged war upon each other, Diedrich and Albion. And I'm certain this time will be no different. But are you really sure? Issei worriedly inquired with sweat accumulating on his brow. Anyway, I can just meet with this guy and talk stuff out ga. Issei's body shook with sudden pain as he gripped his left arm when it started to pulse with power. He grimaced and held it tightly. What the hell?
In answer to your question, no, you will not. Issei stood up when he heard the new voice speak up close to him.
He looked up in surprise to see a handsome silver-haired youth standing a few feet away from him. The stranger had a cocky smirk on his face as he approached the boy in sudden pain. He stopped in front of Issei and tilted his head. So you're Issei Hyodo. I didn't get a proper chance to look you over last time because you looked so drained from using your balance breaker. Have to admit just by first impressions that this is rather underwhelming.
Issei glared at the strange newcomer as the pain in his arm subsided. Who are you? Don't recognize me? I suppose you wouldn't when I was wearing my scale mail. The young man slid his hands into his pockets and smirked. You can call me Valley. Or the White Dragon Emperor. Or Vanishing Dragon. Or Hikuryuko. Or Albion. Whichever suits you. Why you? Issei looked down at his arm before glaring back up at the boy. You're the guy Diedrich was just telling me about? You must be getting lax. By this point in a life you'd already be training in order to face me one day. But it appears that your new vessel has about as much strength as a pup. Who said that? Albion. What an absolute displeasure it is to hear your voice again. What's the matter, Diedrich? Fearful that your loss is coming so soon after finally being able to achieve communication with your vessel. No, I was just reminded of the only truly positive aspect of this enteral damnation we've been locked into. The fact I don't have to listen to you as much as I had to back then. I suppose you're right. Instead of conversing, I'll get my point across when I kill you again. We're not here to fight. Not yet at least. Valley interrupted the two dragons' conversation before looking Issei over and smirking, although, I bet it would be easy to take you out now while you're still so weak. Issei felt his palms sweat at the threatening presence the young man held over him before growling, so why don't you? Because I wouldn't get a fight. That's the whole reason this cycle keeps going. We get stronger. We fight. We kill. We start over. If I kill you, no, Valley shrugged. Who knows how long I'll have to wait until I can fight the next Sekiryute? Who's stopping you? Issei powered through his fear and attempted to sound confident as uncertainty filled his thoughts. Why don't we test it right here? Right now?
Substantial bluff. You think if we started a fight here in the street, in Grimoire territory, that we'd draw attention from your fellow peerage, right? Valley stated as Issei clicked his teeth. It's a clever idea for someone with little combat ability. But there's something you should know. The silver-haired man looked Issei in the eye. If you did that, you'd just be killing your friends. The brunette's eyes widened before Valley continued. How strong do you think you are? Even with the help of your boosted gear, do you think you can stand up on the same level as some of the strongest beings in this world? Valley gave a simple smile and stepped away from Issei before speaking, because let me tell you, you don't measure up in the thousands even with the help of your Longinus. Issei felt himself start to sweat a little more at the idea of just how outclassed he was. Not only by the man in front of him, but by the sheer scope of power he had not yet fully realized around him. Issei gulped before jerking his head in the opposite direction. So fuck off and go fight one of those guys then. I will. In due time. Valley answered, but I thought I'd take a moment and come meet you face to face. It might not feel like it, but this is quite the momentous occasion. This iteration of the Hakuryuko and Sekiryuti meeting together for the first time. We have quite the connection after all.
I'd rather not have a connection with you. Issei paused and looked up in thought, or any other guy for that matter. It's destiny. You sure? Seems more like you went out of your way to look for me just to glare me down. You're the one glaring. I'm merely having a pleasant conversation. I see your vessels are still as unbearable as ever, Albion. That's quite a surprise to hear from you, considering you keep that other boy so close with your followers. Or maybe you don't remember.
Remember what? Valley continued to stare Issei down, but the silver-haired boy's eyes widened when an arm suddenly came around his neck. Valley was yanked off his feet and looked to be headed for the ground before escaping out of the lock around his neck and jumping through the air. The Longinus wielder landed on his feet and glared at his surprise attacker. And what was that?
What do you mean? I told you I'd get you back for choke slamming me before. Remember? Naruto clarified with a scowl. You weren't supposed to get out of it. How is that fair? Naruto senpai. Boy has guts for trying to attack the vanishing dragon from behind. That or he is incredibly stupid.
You come to pick up Kokubile after our fight with him, and now you're here harassing my cute pawns. Ria's elegant and even voice pierced the tension as she strolled over, her arms crossed underneath her breasts as she regarded the silver-haired boy. I'm quite surprised just how rude and blunt this generation's White Dragon Emperor is. You think so, Rias Grimori? Valley spoke with a smirk. I came all the way out here to introduce myself to my future rival. If I was as rude as you paint me to be, I'd just appear one day, not even bother introducing myself, and gut Issei Hyoto on the spot. I have some manners.
Got some real nerve saying you have manners. Naruto snarled, after trying to poke out my eyes and tempting me with ramen back when I was still being held by Azazel.
Playing with a plaything. Don't hate me too much. Valley's casual smile turned into a deep frown as he matched Naruto's vicious look. And you ate my ramen. How's that for rude?
You abandoned your ramen. Any self-respecting ramen lover knows you never walk away from a serving of ramen. And any fool knows that you spit in the face of that glorious food when you covet and steal it from someone else. You love ramen? Peefed, you only disrespect it.
Hold your fucking tongue. Issei raised an eyebrow at the heated conversation between the blonde and the silver-haired boy. His eyes lingered over to Rias to see her sigh and shake her head as well. So it wasn't just him that noticed the Hakuryuko was far more emotional talking about ramen than he was fighting him. For someone declared as his eternal rival, Issei wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or insulted.
Naruto stopped glowering and stood up straight before speaking. If you're here, that means Azazel's still around, right?
That's right. Valley slid his hands in his pockets and nodded with a small smirk. He decided to arrive earlier for the conference between the faction leaders. And before you get any ideas, he's not in the same building or room you left from. Sorry to inform you, Rias Grimori. The redhead narrowed her eyes. I could tell from your look that you were eager to find him and exchange words after he took your little toy for so long, am I correct?
Rias ignored his inquiry and raised a different point. So then why are you here today, Hakuryuko, truly only here to measure up against Issei? I asked Naruto Uzumaki what I could expect from my new rival. All he told me was that he was an unbelievable pervert that would literally sacrifice his life for coitus. I was interested in seeing it for myself. Seriously? Issei groaned to his senior. That's what you told my apparent arch-rival? Naruto shrugged. Well, am I wrong? No, but I'd rather you not tell him anything that would pique his interest.
Oh, too late. Damn it. Well, this has been an intriguing experience, but I think I can call it enough for today. I wouldn't want you all to be late for school. Valley simply started walking away, not at all worried by the glares and looks sticking to his back before saying over his shoulder, I suppose we'll all meet again at the treaty. Take care until then.
Issei gulped as he watched Valley walk out of sight. When he was gone he sighed in relief and turned to the blonde and redhead. Oh man, I'm glad you got here in time. If you didn't get here to ward him off, I'm worried that would have ended in a fight. He wasn't here to fight, and we didn't ward him off. Huh? Issei took notice of the stern look on Naruto's face as he kept staring in the direction Valley had walked off. He looked over at Rias and saw her sigh a breath of relief. A small drop of sweat coming down from her temple. Bucko? He's right, Issei. That boy wasn't here to fight. He really was only here to meet you. Rias spoke with some faint concern as she looked at her. Pawn, if he really was here to fight, we wouldn't have been able to stop him. What? Issei muttered. Seriously? Are you kidding? Not at all. That guy has his sights on you, Naruto agreed. Issei's pulse quickened before Rias stepped forward and embraced him in a hug. He'd have relished the situation at any other time if he didn't feel it tremble through his shoulders as Rias whispered, "We'll protect you, Issei. We won't let him hurt you." "Sorry, partner." Usually most others would simply accept the situation they're in, but I can tell you're really not accustomed to fighting. Some terrible, unstoppable fight that he was destined to participate in from the moment he was born and stuck with this boosted gear.
What was he in for? Devil. The Hakuryuko at our campus. That's unfortunate, but considering the security goes here I can't say it wasn't a possibility. Sona muttered to herself with her hand on her chin in thought. The Citri heiress closed her eyes. I suppose considering what could have happened that the matter was able to be solved through words is a miracle.
How's Issei-kun handling this? He's a bit shaken up. Rias responded to her, Queen, as they met up in the hall and discussed the incident with their fellow devils. This is the first time he's had to experience the fate of the two heavenly dragons for himself. He's reeling at the idea of it. Poor boy. Tsubaki said with some sympathy in her voice. I can't imagine being locked into a destiny like that. Hey, the four girls looked up at the blonde boy in their conversation as he looked confused by their subject. I've been meaning to ask, but what's the big deal? Why did that kid have such an interest in Issei? And what's this stuff about having to fight in two dragons? You haven't told him? Sona asked Rias as the redhead shrugged.
It hasn't really come up until now. And Naruto-san wouldn't know much about our history. Akino added with a faint laugh, you'll never believe the story he told us.
Stop. The whiskered devil cut her off with a glare. Don't go telling everyone my story if you're just gonna be laughing during it. I wasn't. Akino smiled beautifully. I was merely interested in regaling them with your fantastical tale. Yeah, can't see you twisting it around in some horrific way to mess with me. She smiled and he grumbled before turning back to Rias. So what's the story? Eons ago two dragons waged war on each other across the planet. A Welsh dragon called Diedrig and a vanishing dragon called Albion. For as long as anyone can remember they were fighting each other and never stopping. So devils, fallen angels, and even God came together to stop them once and for all. Their bodies were destroyed but their souls were just too strong to erase, so they were confined to sacred gears instead.
The boosted gear and the divine dividing. Rias explained, even with only their souls those gears are considered so powerful that they are designated as Longinus, sacred gears with the capabilities of killing gods if given the chance. And they pass from person to person every time the predecessors die. In this iteration Albion is housed in that boy's body, and Diedrig in Issei's. And just like every time before, they're destined to fight.
That's crazy. Naruto shook his head, can't they just stop fighting or? The dragons are compelled to fight each other. And more often than not the people inhabiting them become overwhelmed in the fight and quest for power. Sona clarified, if Hyodo-kun isn't careful, he may lose himself in the quest for power. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he looked down. Two people destined to fight each other to continue an age-old battle. What is it? Nothing. Just nostalgia. Naruto shook his head before turning away from the girls and heading down the hall. This is way too much to think about during school. I'm gonna get something to eat. Wait for me. Rias called as she followed up at his side. I'll come too. I need to buy something to eat seeing as I didn't prepare anything last night. You did seem really angry at the fact your brother is coming to visit. We aren't bringing that up again. Rias said with a frown before it turned into a smile again. You know I've spent so long at this school but I've never actually gotten a meal from the store here. I suggest the yakisoba sandwich. It's really good.
I'll take you up on that. She smiled up at him and he felt himself do the same almost reflexively. Walking down the school hallway with her he was reminded about just how much had changed for him over the last few months. Not just about becoming a devil, but how much happier he was now than before. Not too long ago he dreaded having to come to this school, go another day not knowing what he should do or where he could go. Now, he still hated school, but he looked forward to seeing the people in it each day. And he felt his spirits raise and shoulders lighten when he was around Rias and the others. Even with all the shocked or even envious looks he was getting walking alongside the famous redhead he didn't care, solely focusing on her and what she had to say.
Once again his thoughts went back to what Issei and Yuto said. Oh, hello Xenovia. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts when he saw them approach their new, night, who stood by the side and watched the hectic mess that was the crowd pining for food. Greeting Rias Bucko, Naruto. The blue-haired junior greeted them. What are you doing? I didn't have a lunch today, so I came down to buy something from the stand. But I stopped and marveled at the sight of this massive crowding of people. The foreign girl cupped her chin in thought. I had no idea this was a Japanese lunchtime rush. Rias chuckled. I didn't expect you to be intimidated by a crowd. Not like that. Xenovia responded. I could easily get through the crowd, but that would probably leave a bad impression. I'm attempting to come at this problem without breaking anyone's limbs or sending anyone to the hospital. So far, I'm at an impasse. Quite the conundrum. Rias piped up before turning to Naruto. Well, you're our resident veteran in this matter. Any ideas? Naruto looked at the situation and tried to consider the best method to face it.
Usually when he came for his food, this same mob was forming around the food, teenagers becoming animals as they pushed and forced their way to the front for the best meals. He usually had to use force and barrel through the people to get his food. He'd probably have to do the same now, but he could do it with a much finer touch than Xenovia was talking about. But if the people didn't move aside and the food was wrecked on the way back.
Hey Rias, he took Xenovia's money and his own and handed them to their king. Why don't you go buy the food for us? What? She looked surprised by his proposal before sending him a questioning look. Are you serious? I've never pushed through a crowd like that before. This isn't one of those go-for situations, is it? Trust me and go try. Very well. Let's see how well this turns out. Rias muttered as she walked towards the hectic crowd. Xenovia stepped up to his side and asked, Are you sure that was the best decision? Give it a sec. Rias approached the mob. Rias-sama. Oni-sama. Gremory-sama, please go ahead of us.
The entire crowd shifted away as all the boys and girls gushed when Rias started making her way through. All of them had red faces, admiring the sight of their goddess as she politely thanked them and sent a smile their way. Rias easily made her way to the counter and placed her order.
Naruto smirked. Knew it. That's amazing. The blue-haired girl noted, almost like watching the Red Sea part. But instead of water, it's a hungry student body. She nodded her thanks to the blonde. Excellent plan.
Thanks. It was quiet between the two of them as an awkward silence settled while they watched Rias make her order. Naruto's eyes wandered to the side, catching a glimpse of the blue-haired warrior as she kept watching ahead. He didn't want to feel nervous, but the memory of her suggesting they have sex and then grabbing his favorite growth lingered in his mind.
Naruto. He flinched when she spoke up as Xenovia turned to him and bowed her head apologetically. I want to apologize for what transpired the other day. It was rash and uncalled for and inappropriate. Oh, Naruto said before giving a quick nod. Well, as long as that's established then.
Thanks to some further guidance from Kiryu, I understand that getting a child is something of a final step in the vast realm of coitus. I need to work my way up there with some more casual experiences first. Xenovia declared before reaching into her pocket and pulling out a multitude of colorful condoms. I received these prophylactics for protection.
Did he pop a vessel? He felt like he popped a vessel. That was much easier than anticipated. Rias stated as she came back over with 3 sandwiches in her hands. She handed them out with a smile. Good idea, Naruto. That only took a minute. So, what were you two talking about? Not much. Naruto snatched the bread from her hand before he started off in the other direction with a nervous laugh. I'll see you guys later, okay, bye. Rias and Xenovia watched him run off before they could speak up. The Gremory heiress casually undid the wrapping and bit into her lunch before asking her, Knight. What was that about? Well, I was following your advice, devil.
Kaneko wasn't expecting to find anyone in the club when she went to go have her lunch because the other years should have been in class. But when she walked in, she found her blonde senior laying back in one of the couches and trying to work something out on his phone. He froze like a deer in headlights when she spotted him and chuckled dryly, Don't tattle.
Kaneko responded with a stoic stare directed at him. Shouldn't you be in class? I made a promise to Rias that I would come to school now that I'm part of the peerage. But I never said anything about attending every class. Naruto said with a smirk. What school without playing hooky every now and then?
You were right. You really are a terrible influence. Kaneko quietly said as she made her way over to the couch and nudged his foot. He swung them over and let her take the seat next to him as she started digging into her meal as well. She looked at the phone he was glaring at. Did it do something to piss you off? No, nothing like that. He answered in a grumpy tone, it's just I'm still trying to get the hang of it. Everyone has suggested to me a website to check out, but I feel like my fingers are too big to type in what I want and I'm getting frustrated. He scratched his head. I have no idea how so many people use these things nowadays.
You really didn't have anything like this back in your world? Nope. I'm pretty sure most of the long-distance messaging was by carrier hawk. Your world used carrier hawks, scrolls, and walking to get between locations, but also had TVs, radios, computers and hospitals. Kaneko noted, your world was very strange.
Can't deny that. Naruto chuckled before looking down at the small girl. You know, I think you're the only one that immediately accepted my story about coming from the other world. You didn't question it or humor it or straight out deny it like fuckface did. Asia still looks intrigued like I'm telling a story and Rias, well, I don't know about her. She always asks me if I can tell her more.
She's a xenophile. Kaneko answered before further explaining once she saw the confused look on Naruto's face. Bucko was born in a European-style household, so she's never gotten to experience the same kind of livelihood as us.
Tatami boards, rice cookers, ninjas, samurai, temples, shrines, Kyoto especially. She loves all these things more than anybody else. And to find out you come from a world where things like this are most commonplace intrigues her a lot. You're the whole package to her.
Huh, that's interesting. Naruto hummed, taking notice of what the young girl said about whole packages. He shrugged, well, if she's interested in hearing then she can just ask. She most certainly will. Kaneko made to take another bite but hesitated as something flashed through her head. She lowered her food and looked down as well before speaking. Senpai, can I ask you something?
Sure. What's up? How did you learn to use senjutsu? Kaneko took the leap and felt Naruto focus on her as she continued to keep her gaze down on her knees. In our world, there are special races and clans, or even extremely gifted individuals that are capable of using senjutsu, but none of them are human. It's uncalled for that a normal person would be able to use abilities like that, but you learned it somehow. So, how did you?
Well, that's a pretty long story. Naruto prefaced with a scratch of his head. It all started one day when my old master died. He had gone off to face the leader of his organization that had been causing a lot of trouble and, well, he couldn't do it by himself. His teachers, a pair of toads, came to me after that and told me to learn the same style of senjutsu that he learned in order to fight that leader too. So they took me to this mountain and taught me how to use senjutsu, with some pretty messed up punishments of me being covered in oil that could turn me into a toad if I wasn't careful.
After a while I finally got the hang of it and could feel the energy flow into me, but not without some part of me changing. He pointed at his face. That's why my eyes change into toad eyes when I'm in sage mode. I guess I have to adopt some animal features in order to use senjutsu too, just like the people in this world, huh? Kaneko nodded before looking up at him. But aren't you worried? He tilted his head. You know what can happen to senjutsu users that take in too much natural energy, right? They become overwhelmed by the malice of this world and become crazy. They lose themselves and hurt people.
I know. Naruto nodded. Ria's brother told me. And if I'm totally honest, I do feel a little more aggressive and unhinged when I use sage mode in this world.
Then you shouldn't risk it. Kaneko spoke with a little more volume, which was unusual for her. So much so that it caused Naruto to look at her in surprise as she stood up from her seat and get some height to look down at him. Do you know what would happen if you lost your mind and became insane from something like that? We wouldn't be able to recognize you. You wouldn't even recognize us. You might run away and disappear forever and... Yeah, I considered that. Then please stop using it, senpai. Kaneko went back to her whisper even if it did sound more pleading and desperate as she lowered her head. You don't need to risk yourself like that. I won't let what happened in the previous fights happen again. I'll protect you and everyone else.
I bet you would, Kaneko. But I'm still going to do it. She looked back up at him with shaky, fearful eyes. Why? The blonde gave a faint smile and hefted himself back on his feet. When he was standing again, he crossed his fingers together and summoned an identical clone to his side.
Kaneko didn't look surprised. Probably remembering when he used this technique during the rating game as he explained, I made this clone with my chakra. It's the energy that flows inside me and gave me the ability to do a lot of stuff when I was younger. But since I was caught in that blast and I ended up here, my chakra has been badly mixed up. Something is wrong with it inside me. I can barely summon enough of it to make one of these guys, and after long enough. The clone popped and Naruto flinched at the pain that spiked his system. He fell back in his seat and Kaneko looked about to help before he raised his hand. This happens. I can't use my chakra anymore to fight, and I'm still learning how to properly use my demonic power. So all I have left is to use Sage Mode, even with its risks.
Kaneko stared at her senior for a moment and felt her eyes water before whispering, but why?
Because. He grinned and patted her head while still looking into her eyes. Just like you want to protect me, I want to protect you and everyone else. I don't want to lose any of you like I lost others back in my home world. So if I have to risk that to make sure I can fight for all of you, that's totally worth it. He pulled his hand back, Kaneko looking sad to have his comforting palm leave her hair as he shrugged, "'Cause you're all worth fighting for." ... Well, I think I could use a nap. Naruto stretched out his limbs before lifting his feet up to stick on the table as he leaned back in the couch. If you wanna keep eating, please be quiet, okay? And don't tell Rias I'm here for just a little bit longer, alright?
She didn't want him to risk himself like that. Not just his life but his mind and identity. If she had to watch one more person she cared about fade away like that. No, not again. Not him at least. She had to do something. He said his chakra let him do a lot of fighting when he was younger, and by some of the stuff he told them about his younger days he did a lot of fighting. So maybe if he had it back. Kaneko waited until he fell asleep, which didn't take long from how steady his breathing was becoming. Carefully Kaneko sat close to his side and leaned into his shoulder. She raised one hand and laid it on his chest as she closed her eyes. She could feel it. Many different foreign energies muddling his system. Probably from floating around in the dimensional gap for too long. They needed to be corrected. Kaneko quelled her fears and steeled herself for what she was about to do. If he was willing to risk himself and she knew he was, then she had to be willing to do the same. And so Kaneko concentrated while 2 ears popped out of her hair. Devil, you said your ultimate goal was to create a harem, correct? Then you should be delighted. As I stated before, your power will draw in a lot of attention from the opposite sex. I'm certain you'll find your harem in no time. That's great, but I feel like you're purposefully neglecting something. Many of my predecessors did find themselves surrounded by the sex of their desire. But they were also too consumed by the power and strength offered to them with the boosted gear to actually enjoy it.
Always a catch. Issei mumbled to himself as he kept his head hidden in the fold of his arm while classes came to an end. He hadn't taken a single note all day because his mind continued to wander. Too preoccupied with the realization of his fate and just how dangerous it really was. He had received some ambiguous warnings and cryptic telling of what laid ahead of him because he had the boosted gear, but never anything concrete. Until now. My destiny is to fight that valley guy to the death to prove which one of us is stronger. Issei's thoughts turned dreadful as he immediately started to think about all the terrible, gruesome ways he could be taken out by that cocky silver-haired jerk. He shivered and shook his head. I'm screwed.
What's the matter, Issei-san? You looked distracted the entire class. He looked up and saw Asia's concerned expression mere inches from him. Her eyes softened and she spoke with a soft voice. Are you still thinking about that other heavenly dragon from before? And no, not at all. He responded with a shaky smile. Just worrying about parent visitation day is all.
You're not very convincing. Issei-san, the pervert felt Asia's smaller hand grip his tightly. But felt a sense of safety and relief flood into him when she smiled. I know it may seem scary having to know there is someone terrifying like that looking at you. And I wish I could protect you properly. He didn't dare wish to see her in harm's way, but I promise I will always be by your side to help you. However I can. So if you just ask.
Issei felt a smile easily come to his face as the dread shriveled up. He sat up in his chair. Thank you, Asia. That really helped. He shrugged. I still don't know how I'm supposed to deal with that white dragon asshole, but I'll figure something out. Ah, you're having such a sweet moment. You must be so happy to have someone like Asia-chan by your side.
Dread quickly returned as he felt a pair of hands on his shoulders as the others lifted up his chair. He didn't even get out a yell before he was raised and slammed down on his back as Motohama and Matsuda snarled down at him, "You bastard. You dare get lovey-dovey in front of us. Have you no heart? Sorry, almost forgot you guys existed." Issei heartlessly countered as his two friends gasped and reeled back in shock. He rubbed his neck and sat up to regard his two friends. "I was just talking with Asia. Just because you two see any kind of interaction with the opposite sex as greater strides than either of you will ever make in the effort of talking to girls doesn't mean you have to take your frustrations out on me."
Heartless. Is this still Issei Hyodo? The loneliest, most depraved member of the perverted trio that was hated by everybody to a much higher degree than either of us put together? How in the world did that filthy, lecherous, bathroom peeping, changing room invading, ludicrous lout of a pervert ever get the ability to be around a normal girl? Why the hell did you add so many adjectives, you assholes? Issei immediately lunged at the two boys and started wringing out their necks as they retaliated in kind. "I'm gonna make you both regret those words."
He seems to be back in spirits. Asia turned to see Zenobia stepping up to her side to watch the argument between friends. The blue-haired warrior turned to the blonde nun. "Is he still thinking about the White Dragon Emperor?" Asia gave a sad nod. "Yes, Issei-san can't stop thinking about it." The blonde girl's voice lowered as she looked back to see the boy of her affection grappling with the two boys. "I always knew Issei-san could do great things, but for his destiny to be so dangerous."
There are a lot of stories about the two heavenly dragons and their battle.
One of the things the records of those battles prove is that when the time for that battle comes, the expected outcome isn't always the one that pulls through. The younger wielder created some fantastic ability the other couldn't anticipate. The older fighter proved their experience through battle was more than enough to make up for their younger foe's ferocity. Even the weaker side pulled through unexpectedly. Zenobia turned to the shorter girl with a faint smile. "Don't lose hope just yet."
Zenobia-san. Asia's eyes watered but she quickly wiped them away and gave a firm nod back. "Okay. I won't lose hope yet. I know Issei-san will pull through this with a victory, he's strong enough to do it." "Good. Also, since you care for him so much." Zenobia reached into her pocket before handing her something. "Take one of these." Asia examined the strange, colorful wrapping placed in her hand. "What is this?" "It's protection. For when Issei is in the act." "Oh, protection. This will ease his mind."
Asia clutched the gift tightly and looked to her first friend with a smile. She wasn't going to let anything bad ever happen to Issei. "Devil. Wake up." Naruto felt his feet get roughly knocked over and jolted awake with a start. When he did, he looked around and saw Rias looking at him with an exasperated smile. Kaneko was hiding behind the redhead like she was scared and he suddenly felt like he should be too. "Hey." He lamely greeted with a smile. "How did you know I was here?"
"You missed the rest of your classes." Rias noted. "You overslept. School's over." Seriously?" Rias nodded and he sat up a little in surprise. He was going to take a nap for maybe most of the class, not the rest of the school day. He stood up and prepared to give his excuse. "I swear I didn't."
"Don't worry, we'll have a talk about this later," Rias said with some amusement before shaking her head. "Honestly, if I'm upset about anything, it's that Kaneko decided to close her eyes and do the same. You truly are the worst kind of role model for her." She didn't sound upset or annoyed at all, just enjoying the oddness of the situation before pointing to the door. "Don't you have a job to do? You'll be late if you stay behind."
"Oh, good point. See you at the apartment." He waved her off and made for the door before waving back. "See ya later, Kaneko." The girl gave a small, shy wave in response before Naruto was gone. Once he was, Kaneko's expression fell into one of fear and trepidation. She flinched when Rias turned to her, but looked up to see a worried expression on her king's face. "I thought you never wanted to use it again. Why would you do that?"
Kaneko lifted her head. "I wanted to help him." Rias felt like melting at the expression her rook was showing her as she leaned in and enveloped the short girl in a hug. An embrace the young freshman was more than willing to return as Rias comforted the worried girl. "My sweet, silly girl. Sometimes I just don't get you." The fear in Kaneko's frame started to wade with her comfort as Rias just let her calm down in her arms. Devil. It was dark when Naruto made it back to the apartment. He walked in and found Rias in his room, working on some homework at his table before she greeted him. He chuckled and greeted her back with resignation. For a girl that had her room right next door to his, she spent a lot of time hanging out in his. He dropped his bag and went for the fridge. Any ideas for dinner? I have some in mind. She responded. Were you worried about coming back because you thought I'd be mad about earlier? Naruto gave a nervous chuckle and shrugged. Well, no matter how nervous you may have been, I can promise Kaneko felt worse. She felt like she did something she shouldn't have and she was so worried. That girl is such a worrywart.
I swear I wasn't trying to tempt her into skipping. I know, and you can't help it either. She smiled up at him. She just likes you too much to leave you. Naruto gave a faint smile as he started drinking. Xenovia told me what happened at the pool, and he immediately spat it all up.
The whiskered man doubled over, coughing and slamming his chest to clear his lungs. His eyes started to sting before he looked over in despair only to see Rias' amused expression. The Grimoire heiress giggled. I gave her a stern talking to. There's nothing wrong with being a little aggressive for what you want, but a warning and planning are also needed. She was actually quite intrigued to listen to what I had to say. So everything is fine now.
Naruto's shoulders lowered in relief. I was shocked when she actually did it. I had no idea what to do. Sounds like quite the situation. Rias nodded as she stood up from her spot and made her way around the table to face him. I can understand why you would be surprised having something like that suddenly sprung on you. That being said, what? Can I try it too? It was completely silent between the two of them as Naruto stoically stared at Rias' still expression. He blinked. What? I want to try doing what Xenovia did too. Rias repeated. I thought it would be more tasteful to ask you instead of just jumping in. Especially since the last time I tried engaging with you in something like this I sort of just thrust myself onto you. Now I'm asking, can we? Hey, are you serious? Absolutely. No, I don't really know if you do. I promise I do. This seems way too crazy to be real. Did I fall asleep cooking ramen again? I'm not sure how to respond to that, but I promise you this is real. You don't know how to respond? How do I respond to this? This has got to be a fantasy. This is way too much to be real. I am very much real, Naruto Uzumaki. No. This is my imagination playing against me. Just because I've been thinking about Rias a lot lately doesn't mean she'd be here asking to go 2.5 bases with me. 2.5 bases? Rias titled her head before her eyes widened. Wait, you've been thinking about me? Nope. Naruto slipped past her. Begone, crazy figment of my imagination.
Why you? Rias jumped into his back and they both went falling down into his bed. When it was done, Naruto was laid out on his back with the pure-blooded devil straddling him. Rias looked down and saw Naruto staring up at her with his cheeks turning red. She sighed before a smile returned to her face and she grabbed his hand. She rested his hand on her breast and let it sink into the flesh. Last time they were in this position, Naruto's mind was so overloaded that he couldn't properly feel the sensation when he grabbed her. But now his brain was taking in every feeling when he grabbed her boob. Even through her uniform and bra he could feel just how soft, squishy, and responsive her chest was to the most minute movements he made. His hand squeezed a little tighter on the soft sensation of her chest before he felt something through his palm. Her heart beat. He looked up in surprise as she smiled. The last time I almost ruined a moment like this because I was afraid of having my life and choices taken away from me. But thankfully you convinced me to stop before we made a mistake. And now? Naruto asked while his hand squeezed her mound. What about this mistake? No, Rias leaned down and took his lips in a kiss. The two closed their eyes and deepened the lock before Rias pulled back, leaving Naruto wanting more before she reassured him, this isn't a mistake. Rias started to fiddle with his pants before undoing his buttons and slipping her hand into his drawers. His body stilled when she took a firm hold of his member and wrapped her fingers around it. His eyes twitched and he let out a groan as Rias started to make some precautionary movements with it. Wow. He opened his eyes again to see a surprised expression on Ria's face as her cheeks also started to glow with a flush. Her hand continued to probe and shift the appendage around. I've read a lot in anatomy books, but this is so much different. It's hotter than I expected. And it's getting. Rias stopped when Naruto cupped her cheek and pulled her into another deep kiss. He lifted himself up, getting more ground on her while she continued to rub him up and down. He didn't have much experience with kissing, but he doubted Rias had much either with her reaction. So he took the opportunity to try and gain some ground by kissing, and she seemed preoccupied with that to keep rubbing him off. She moaned and squeezed him tightly, earning a groan from him. So in response he snaked his arm around her back and pulled her in while grabbing her breast. She ended their kiss and threw her head back, ah. She moaned while his hand squeezed and rubbed her bountiful bosom. Her expression became softer from the pleasure as she moaned, no fair.
Just getting, ah. He gasped and shivered when she started jerking her hand at a faster rate. He felt his resistances start to wane from the pleasure as he tried to focus. He closed his eyes and willed himself from trying to show any reaction before his hands left her breasts and went for her shirt.
Hey. Rias gasped as he quickly started to unbutton her uniform. He pulled her shirt open as her massive bra-clad breasts jiggled in the open. He gulped and grabbed the black brassiere before pulling it up. He knew he wouldn't be able to undo the bra before she could keep jerking him off, so instead he decided to pull it upwards and let her breasts spill out. And boy did they ever. The massive springy mounds bounced from their confines as Rias let out a breathy moan. Naruto's eyes were filled with Rias' boobs as his gaze immediately went to the points of the pink-tipped mountains. He gulped in surprise before his hands went in and molded into the fleshy expanses.
She couldn't stifle her moan as her whole body shivered from the sensation of his palm pressing into her breast. She shook but squeezed her hand and got one in return from Naruto. She lurched forward and took his lips while moaning his name, Naruto. Rias. The two devils persisted. Rias bodybending in pleasure and Naruto was moments away from
Rias. The two teens froze in shock when they heard the voice and knocking on the door outside. They separated, a small line of saliva between their lips as they looked back towards the voice outside and the repeated knocking. Rias, it's me. I'm here with Otu-sama. We came to visit you early as a surprise. Are you in there?
Oh Oni-sama. What's your brother doing here? Naruto whispered as he pulled his hands away from her breasts. I don't know, he's an idiot. I can't control what he does. She released her hold on his dick and recoiled in shock as she looked over her state of undress. Oh no.
Is she not home? An older voice asked. I don't know. We can always ask Naruto-kun. The knocking was now on his door as Lucifer's voice permeated through. Naruto-kun, it's Searsex. Remember me. Do you know where Rias is? I don't think she's home. Hello.
Run. Naruto barely got out before Rias immediately clambered off of him and ran for the closet door to slip into her room. She was already fixing herself back up and when she was gone Naruto opened the door to greet them. Hello.
When he did he saw Searsex, Graphia politely standing to the side, and an older man that looked like the spitting image of the Mao with crimson hair and some stubble. The Mao greeted him. Hello again, Naruto-kun. It's so good to see you again after I heard you had a little run-in with Azazel. I know the man personally. He's quirky.
Sure, that's a word. You remember Graphia, our maid. The lovely older woman bowed her head. And this man is Zeoticus Gremory, mine and Ria's father. Pleasure to meet you. The Duke greeted the young man as Naruto suddenly felt like he should have been better prepared for meeting their father. I've heard quite a bit about you, Naruto-san. Oh, thank you. Naruto bowed his head with a small smile. It's a pleasure to meet you. The feeling is mutual. Zeoticus smiled and bowed back. We're sorry to have been interrupting you.
Huh. His mind blanked. Why would you think you were interrupting anything exactly? All three adults looked down and Naruto followed their gaze. He paled when he saw his pants open to show his underwear and the very obvious erection sticking up inside it. He turned around and fixed himself in an instant before turning back to them. Sorry about that. Natural for a man your age. Naruto felt too embarrassed to respond as the door next to his opened. Rias stepped out. Her form returned to its perfect and pristine norm as she dried her hands. I'm sorry about that. I was getting ready to cook but you all were already stepping off. She greeted her family with a round of hugs before looking to Naruto with a smile. They weren't bothering you, were they?
Not at all. He was bothered in a different way and really wished he could remedy that at the moment. Well, I was about to suggest we go out to eat. Searsex smiled. Would you like to join us? Yeah, stick around with the family of the girl he nearly climaxed with. That won't be awkward at all. He forced a smile. I'd love to.
Devil. He wanted to be anywhere else but here. Sitting in class with a horde of other students' parents cluttered in the back of the room to watch their kids study. He now understood why Rias dreaded this day, but probably for different reasons. She hated it because her family came to embarrass her every year like clockwork.
He was annoyed because this was the first time he actually attended class for this thing and it seemed dreadful. Some parents were whispering and talking in the back. Others were taking pictures or videotaping it, and one.
So-tan. Hey So-tan. You're doing such a great job. The short girl in the back failed to whisper and waved her arms around wildly with a huge joyful smile on her face. She was causing way too much noise for just a visitor, but no one had the heart to stop her. And the poor soul at the center of her attention.
He had never seen Sona look so uncomfortable. Honestly, it looked like the usually cool, composed sea-tree heiress just wanted to fold into herself and disappear forever. But she powered on with a burning red face as she attempted to take notes. Must have been her little sister or something. With a put-upon sigh, Naruto went back to looking at the board as the teacher wrote down notes. He could barely pay attention to her lecture as his mind continued to wander elsewhere. Mostly to Rias, and what had happened last night. He hadn't expected things to escalate as quickly as they did. But they did, and he did not regret it. It wasn't sex. From his understanding, that was something like petting or whatever, but shit, did it feel incredible. Was that for everyone, or was it because it was her? He didn't know. He had never felt like this about anyone before. Sakura was a crush, and he never did properly respond to Hinata, which made him feel like shit, but Rias felt different. When he thought of her, he felt warmer. So here he was, in class, confused, frustrated, hot and bothered, and bored. How was he supposed to take notes when all of that was stacked against him? Yes, because we both know that's what's stopping you from taking notes. Shut up. I didn't ask for your opinion. He jumped out of his chair with a start as his chair clattered to the floor and all eyes turned to him. The whole room went silent as the teacher asked, Uzumaki-kun, is everything okay? Naruto looked around in shock as he took in all the surprised looks being spared his way. Why, yeah, sorry. He shook his head and started for the door, weaving through the other seats and parents to get out. I'm sorry, I have to go.
Hey. Naruto ignored the teacher's call and sprinted down the empty halls. His pounding heart and frantic breathing were the only things in his ears as he turned the corner and dashed up the stairs. He finally made his way out onto the roof and stood in silence, panting. No way. No way, no way, no way, no way. It was impossible. Just his mind playing tricks on him. There was no way he heard it. But he swore he did. That familiar gravel and tone. It had to be Kurama.